Okay. Now, so far in the previous class, we looked into the JavaScript. Now we will look into the server-side development, and we'll be using the PHP. So what is a server-side development? The basic hosting of your files is achieved through a web server. So you need a web server, and the hosting will be done through the web server. Server-side development is much more than the web hosting. It involves the use of a programming technology like PHP or ASP.NET to create script that dynamically generate the content. So it is not just the hosting, it is much more than the hosting. You will have the scripts that will run either there are many technologies we will see if it is like a PHP or ASP.NET. So it will run those scripts and dynamically create the content. It will get whatever the request, it will process, generate the content, it will return that content as a response. That is how it will work. Okay, we will see the what is the distinction between the client side scripting and the server side scripting. First one is the client script execution. Here you can see first thing is the uh, user request certain resources. He will access certain web page, and there is a request for the JavaScript file. That file is returned script.js, and that script contains all the JavaScript. Let us say you have some validations on the your UI side, that is a browser side. Those will get executed on the browser. So whatever JavaScript you want to run, that will be run on the browser, and that is how it will be displayed. This is the client script execution. If you want to see the server side execution, you will request for the any resources, for example PHP resource. Once you request the PHP resource, PHP code in the requested resource is executed on the web server. On the web server side, whatever the requested PHP code, it gets executed, and whatever the output that comes from that PHP execution, that will be sent back to the browser as a response, and then it will be displayed onto the browser. So server-side script resources. What are the different resources you will have on the server side? When a particular PHP code is requested, when execution of that PHP code happens, it might interact with many resources. It could be a database. It will make a connection to a database, get some kind of a data, or it could be related to some kind of a web services. It will call some web services, it will get the information, or it could be something related to the file manipulation. Maybe it will update certain file, mail. Okay, anything related to the mail, or it could be related to any other software. And once that execution, whatever the output comes, that will be returned back to the browser which sends the particular request. Web development technologies. Here the two examples are given. On the left hand side, you can see this web server ASP.NET, and on this side we have the PHP. In case of a ASP, user will request a ASPX. That is the extension. Whenever you are developing in .NET, whatever the server page you get is it comes as a .aspx. So that is the file extension. Once the server gets that request, okay, then that particular vacation.aspx, that program is executed on the server side, and the program output, the HTML, whatever the output that it is going to get. So on the server, code behind would be ASPX, and it will convert it into a ASPX.cs if there are any objects and everything. And once that processing is done, it will send the HTML document. Okay, if there are any CSS related thing or JavaScript related, it will send as a HTML document. That is what it will be received by the browser and it will be displayed. In case of a PHP, you will request a PHP certain code, which is a PHP here, vacation.php. On the server side, that particular program or the script gets executed. Once that program gets executed, whatever is the HTML, including the JavaScript and the CSS, if they are requested, all that will be sent back as the HTML, and that will be displayed on the browser. So irrespective of what kind of a technology you are going to use, the response would be an HTML page which is understandable by the browser. These are the different technologies comparing server-side technology. ASP, active server pages. ASP is it's a when the web development was in its earlier stage, ASP was very popular, and nowadays ASP is not used. So it is based on you can have the ASP code inside embedded inside the HTML, and it will be interpreted at runtime. So it was a little slow. Then came the ASP.NET. So it is part of the .NET framework, and any kind of a .NET programming language which are supported on .NET platform can be used. For example, most commonly used is C# or Visual Basic is also supported. And this is very similar to Java. In case of a Java, it creates a bytecode, right? Java is a platform independent, right? It creates a bytecode, and that particular bytecode can be executed on any platform. Either it is a convert that bytecode into machine code. Similar to that, it will have an intermediary file format called a MSIL. That is the intermediate format that is used. And ASP.NET, it also uses the just-in-time compiler. We call it as a JIT. Okay, JIT, JIT, that is just-in-time compiler. As and when a certain thing is required, that would be compiled. So your web applications will be more responsive. Only problem with the ASP.NET is this works only on the Windows servers. So ASP.NET will not work on the other frameworks. It works only on the Windows servers. JSP is the Java server pages. This is another programming language like ASP.NET. It uses explicit object-oriented approach and used in a large enterprise web systems and integrated into J2EE environment. Okay, J2EE environment. So it will have all the web servers, everything. JSP, you will use the JSP for the web development as well as server-side scripting. Okay, and this also uses the JIT compiler for fast execution, and it is cross platform. While JSP's usage is in web as a whole is small, it has a substantial market share in the intranet environment. Okay, so that is a JSP. Nowadays JSP, the web applications with JSP has reduced. Once upon a time, JSP was very popular with some of its unique features. Next is Node.js. It is a more recent server environment that uses JavaScript on the server side. Okay, so Node.js uses the JavaScript on the server side. What we have seen JavaScript, what we learned to use that JavaScript on the client side. Okay, on the browser side, and thus allowing developers already familiar with the JavaScript to use in a single language for both client side as well as a server side. So this gave an advantage because developers already they knew how to write the JavaScript on the server side. Same thing they can be used on the server side. So for the developers, it would be easy, like whether it's a server side or a client side, you can use the JavaScript. Unlike the other development technology listed here, Node.js also its own web server software. Node.js it has own web server software. This will eliminate using any kind of other web servers. For example, Apache or IIS. IIS is for the Windows operating system, or any other web servers requirement. Node.js it has its own inbuilt server. Next one is the Perl development. ESP, it is similar to ASP and JSP. Perl was language typically used for early server-side web development as a language in the manipulation of a text. It was commonly used in conjunction with a CGI, Common Gateway Interface. That is its usage. PHP, it is a dynamically typed language and it can be embedded inside the HTML. And if you see nowadays, I had sent you a link also. There is a big market share that PHP has. So many web applications are developed using the PHP. Okay, now and it PHP now supports most common object-oriented features such as classes, inheritance by default. PHP pages are compiled into intermediary code that is called as a opcode, similar to MSIL on .NET framework, similar to Java's bytecode. PHP also is gets compiled into an intermediate code that is a code and that is called as a opcode. And PHP, it stands for, it traditionally it stood for personal home pages, but it's more acronym meaning is that it's a PHP hypertext processor. Python, it's an object-oriented programming language, and it can be used to create the web application. And it is used in a variety of web development frameworks. There are many frameworks. Inside those frameworks, we use the Python. The examples being the Django and the Pyramid. Next one is Ruby on Rails. This was also at one particular time it was a very popular framework. Okay, similar to ASP.NET and JSP. What Ruby on the Rails, it emphasizes its use for the common software development approach, like MVC. What is MVC? Model View Control. So that is the design pattern. It will have, you have a model, you have a view. View is basically whatever the UI side, whatever the user sees. Then I have a controller which will control the model. Model is basically related to the data. So a database, and we will have the controller, and that is the design pattern that is used in case of a Ruby on Rails. It integrates features such as templates and engines that aim to introduce the amount of development work required in the creation of a new site. So it provides a lot of templates, and it helps in reducing the developmental work that is required. This is the current market share, you can say. So if you consider the top 10 web applications, you can see PHP market share is predominant. It's about 39%, right? Next is the ASP.NET. And then you can see Ruby, JSP, and other technologies. If you consider top 10 web applications or websites, top 50 million sites. If you see the top 50 million site, PHP market is almost 50%, almost like 47 is close to half. So this gives an idea how PHP is still relevant. Okay, if you learn the PHP skill as a full stack developer, PHP, CSS, JavaScript, and on the backend side, if you understand database, MySQL or Oracle database, then there is a good combination of a full stack developer, and there are a lot of requirement for the PHP developers. What are the web server's responsibilities? Web server has many responsibilities that we have, that we can, those are listed here. First one is handling HTTP connections. So it has to handle all the HTTP connections. responding to request for static and dynamic resources. So whenever the request comes from the client, from the browser, it has to respond to those particular request, and that when a response they are it is giving, it can be either a static resource or a dynamic resource. What is a static resource? Let us say particular request is it is requesting for a certain JavaScript file or certain image file or certain data file, or it is requesting for a dynamic resources. Dynamic resources are those resources where we have to do some kind of a processing on the server side. Once the we do the processing on the server side, then whatever the output we get, okay, that will be sent as a response. That is the dynamic resources. Managing permissions and access for certain resources. So it has to manage the permission and access for whatever the resources it has. Encrypting and compressing data. So it will do the encryption of the data and also compressing the particular data. Managing multiple domains and URLs. So on particular web servers, if there are multiple domains are there, and if multiple applications are hosted, and definitely it has to manage the URLs. Managing database connection. So server is responsible for making all the database connection. Let us say a particular request from the user. He is inquiring. Yesterday I gave an example, like on a page we want to dynamically for selected country we want to dynamically load the states. When user selects a particular country, that will go as a request, and it will make connection to the database, and from the database it will select let us say it goes to a states table. It will select all the states where country is equal to particular country that is selected, let's say India. So it will select all the records whose where the country is equal to India. Then it fetches all the data that is states and it responds back. So all those during this serving this request, it has to make a connection to the database, and once it gets the data, that particular connection should be closed. It depends on some web servers, they use the connection pool, right? They don't make a connection every time. They will have a connection pool ready. Whichever connection is available, it will use that connection, make a request, and then it will release that particular connection. Managing cookies and state. Okay, this is another responsibility. Uploading and managing the files. So whatever the files getting uploaded, should be it will be managing those particular files. Managing in the sense with respect to which location it will be stored, what permissions will be given, and whether there is any kind of a backup activity has to happen on those files, all those things. So this is the most important question. In spite of like you going through this particular subject, many times you fail to answer this question. When we ask, like I'm talking about final year project, when your project is complete and you are facing the external examiner, we ask the question, which server did you use? And 90% of the time we get the answer as XAMPP. Okay, here it's a lamp. L stands for Linux, X stands for the Windows. So XAMPP, please remember, XAMPP is not a server. It's not a web server. XAMPP is a software stack. Please remember that, all of you. Please remember, XAMPP is not a server. It is a software stack. That software stack, what does it has? It has like for the lamp, it is a Linux operating system. We have inside that stack, we have the Apache web server. When you say XAMPP, you are using the Apache web server, okay, for your web application. Whatever on the server side processing, that is taken care by the Apache web server. And this particular stack has a database as MySQL and PHP as the scripting language. Clear? So even though in book it says we are going to use LAMP, we are going to use the XAMPP. Apache and Linux. Consider Apache Web Servers is an intermediary that interprets HTTP requests that arrive through a network port and decides how to handle the request, which often require working in conjunction with the PHP. Okay, so whatever the requests that are coming in this particular stack, so Apache will take care of those requests. You can see here. The HTTP request and the response. So Apache is the one. And if it is required to interact with the PHP, it will interact with the PHP and it will send the response. If you see here, this web server, okay, this particular stack, it's on a Linux environment, and we have the Apache. On top of the Apache, I have the PHP. And port, you can see by default it is 80. So most of the web servers by default they give the port as 80. Apache runs as a daemon on the server. A daemon, an executing instance of a program, also called a process, that runs in the background waiting for a specific event that will activate. So you know what is a daemon? Daemon is a continuously running programs. For example, on your mobile application, there are certain processes which will continuously run in the background, and whenever for example, whenever you get a new message, you will get a notification. Why you get a notification? Because some daemon is running in the background. So Apache will run like that, and it will wait for the request, and it will give the response. When a request arrives, Apache then uses the modules to determine how to respond to that request. So it will understand what kind of a request it is, and based on that, it will give a response. In Apache, module is a compiled extension usually written in a C programming. So in case of a module, there are different modules inside. Those are compiled extensions, and they are written in C programming. Apache that helps it to handle request. For this reason, these modules are also sometimes called as handlers. So these modules are compiled extensions, and for Apache to give a response, it will use a particular kind of a module. So this module will help Apache in responding. So that is how those modules are also called as a handlers. This is the structure Apache and the PHP. Okay, this is the incoming request, and this is the Apache. Okay, each module can decline serving a request, accept serving it, or even they request from being served by other modules. So these things, each module can either accept, see request is coming here, this can accept or it can decline, then either it can ask other modules to respond. So these are the different modules: module authorization, module rewrite, module SSL, module PHP 5. Okay, this is the module that actually interfaces with the PHP environment. What you are seeing is the Apache. Inside Apache, different modules are there. Apache is the one which will take the request and it will give the response, and Apache will use this particular module to interact with the PHP environment. And on the PHP environment, we have the core PHP is there, then extension layer. This extension layer interacts with other environments, maybe some kind of other libraries or some databases, and this everything is gets executed on the Zend engine. That is the engine handles compilation and execution. Everything, the compilation, execution, everything is done on the this particular Zend engine. Apache runs in two possible modes: multi-process, also called pre-forked, or multi-threaded. So you know what is multi-process. So having different processes, okay, and multi-threaded, there will be a threads. So different, we also call it as a workers. There is a different threads that will be spawned, and you can do the installation to work Apache as a multi-process or multi-threaded, but default installation Apache runs as a multi-process mode, not as a multi-threaded. This is the example. You can see this is the multi-process and this is the multi-threaded. You have different the same here, the different processes are handling the requests. Here different threads are handling the requests. You can see that. So here like thread, right? Multi-thread, multi-processes. Same process is run as a different process. Okay, even though it can do the same activity, we spawn another process. Instead of that, here the same process will spawn the threads. So that is the difference between those two. PHP internals. There are three main modules that we have. So now it is 12:40. So PHP internals, it has three main modules. We will look into this in detail in the next class. And also what I want you to do is try to install the XAMPP server, okay, on your laptop. If you have already installed, then it is very good. I will give few things about the XAMPP installation. We will I think we will complete this, otherwise it doesn't take much time. There are three modules: PHP core, extension layer, and we have the Zend Engine. PHP core module defines the main features of the PHP environment, including all the functions, variables, arrays, string, classes, map, whatever we gone through. So all those will be part of the PHP core. And extension, as I told you, it defines functions and services which will help with interacting certain kind of a libraries, okay, certain kind of a databases, certain kind of a software. For example, MySQL. FTP is what? File transfer protocol, SOAP, web services, XML. For that we have the extension layer. And Zend Engine, it is responsible for compiling and executing the PHP. Can see here, first one, PHP, the documents will come in. It will goes to Lexer. Lexer converts it to human readable PHP code into machine readable tokens, and those tokens passes to the parser. The parser will convert those tokens and generate them as an expressions. Once it is done, it is sent to the compiler, and compiler will convert it into optcode. It is similar to the bytecode, intermediate code, and that intermediate code will come to the executor. So finally it will come as to the executor. What executor does is it takes that opcodes and generates the HTML. So whatever the PHP code that was requested, it will go to Lexer, parser, compiler, executor. Then we get the output as a HTML, which is returned to the browser. Installing XAMPP. Okay, we'll focus on the just the XAMPP Windows installation package. Okay, this is link is provided here. I will share this link in your classroom, Google Classroom, or you can just Google it. It is not that difficult to get it. Okay, so there are certain versions are there. Let us go with whatever is the latest version. If we encounter any problem, then we will see what to do. But based on whatever, based on your operating system, also you have to check what operating system you have, whether it is a 64-bit or 32-bit. Based on that, select the proper version. Okay, and you install it. Once you do the successful installation, you can check whether the installation is successful or not. Okay, you will get a control panel like that. If your installation is successful, you will see a control panel like this, and inside the control panel, by default, Apache and MySQL will immediately start running. You can see these are the services. These two services are running, and these are the process IDs, and these are the ports where they are listening to. And Here are the different actions you can take. If you want to stop this particular server, web server, you can stop. If you want to stop the database instance, you can stop that. If you want to do some administrative activity, you want to configure something, you can do those things. As of now, just successful installation is required from your end. Don't do anything else. Like, we will not touch any of these configurations or any kind of a thing. Just we need a web server and one MySQL database. And once your installation is complete, you can open this local host. Okay, you just say localhost. Okay, 127.0.0.1. They will they will provide some kind of a test file will be there that will show up. That means your installation is complete, and we can put the files in this particular folder, c colon XAMPP htdocs. So that this particular folder will host our all the web applications. If you want to have multiple web application, we can have those applications inside this folder. So in the next class, I want everybody should have the XAMPP installed on your laptop, and make sure that you can open the local page. Okay, just say localhost. Some default page will be there which will open up. Okay, that is the task for your until your next class.